Hey listening friends, I'm your host and coach Laura Malone. As an entrepreneur and leader, wife and mom, teacher and creator, I am showing up to share possibility with you and help you find vision and wisdom because you deserve to be equipped and released as the hero of your own story. Coaching really does help you change your life. And if you want to know how to guide yourself and others well, I created this podcast just for you. It's a place where you can grab tools, teachings, and ideas for both personal and spiritual growth, as well as entrepreneurship and coaching if that's your thing. So as you listen in, I pray I can help you create a legacy of impact and really start writing the story of a life you love living. Now let's jump into today's episode. This is a fun episode. I like talking about things like this. Sometimes you're going to have a client who you ask a question to, and maybe you even know the answer to this question, or you think it's simple, and your client says, I don't know. And I'm going to say this is regardless of whether you have clients or not, you will always have people in your life who say, I don't know. And so this episode is actually about how to help people know. And how can you respond with grace and compassion and understanding and not get frustrated or feel like you hit a dead end. So when your client answers, I don't know, when you say anything, like any kind of question that you have inside of your session and they don't know, usually starting off, you first just need to hold the space for them. As a coach, you are a space holder, right? So you have to allow yourself to hit pause and not try to fill the void. Don't push them. Just let them have the time with the question. So there are, I think, some main reasons why they might say they don't know. And the first one, they don't know the answer and can't know it because it's not figure-outable. This is the least likely for you to encounter. Marie Forleo says the only things that are not figure-outable are the things that aren't problems. They're just facts of life or laws of nature, like death or gravity. So what day will you die? That's a question that's usually not knowable, right? What is heaven like exactly? What would oceans be like? Would they be blue if the rainbow was made of inverted colors? What would gravity be like if the earth were to flip upside down? And honestly, if you're asking your client these kinds of questions, you need to quit coaching and become a hobbit so you have time to dwell on these things and just leave the rest of us out of it, right? Okay. So if there's something that cannot be known, it's because it's not knowable. And these are not the kinds of questions you're going to ask a client, but I'm trying to make a point that there's not really something that your client couldn't know, right? There's always a way to figure something out, which leads me to number 2. They don't know the answer. They legitimately say, I don't know. But the real answer is yet. But they could figure it out. If you know the answer is findable, like it's figure-outable and findable, then maybe they can ask somebody else, read a book, Google it, etc. But your next question could be, well, how could you find the answer? And let them take responsibility for how are they going to find the answer. So for example, if you ask them, what would it take for you to gain the amount of money that you need in order to get out of debt? Well, they're probably going to need to go home and do some number crunching and a little research, right? So they don't know yet, because they can go figure it out. Or if you ask them, how could you and your husband make more room for quality time together? Well, they might need to go have a conversation and look at a calendar, but even those things are part of the answer of how. So I don't know really needs to become, I don't know yet, but I know what I can do to figure it out, right? Third one, they do know the answer, but they're afraid to admit it for some reason. This is the most complicated one because it gets really personal and sometimes a little scary for the client. Maybe they aren't comfortable with their answer. Maybe you're asking what they want out of their job and their real answer is that they want to quit. but that seems impossible, or maybe it seems wrong to want. So they say, I don't know. Or maybe they're honest with them. They're not honest with themselves. Maybe you are asking how much money you want to make this year. Like, what's your goal? And they say, I don't know, because they want to be pious and act like money doesn't matter. But the truth is money matters to everybody. But because we don't always accept the dividing line between the fact that money matters and simply because it does, and money being an idol that we fear and love, regardless of our access to it or our lack of it, it can feel like we shouldn't say that it matters so we don't sound greedy. And so because the client can't be honest with themselves about how they actually feel about money, they say, I don't know, to try and get out of the question. So this is where I ask the fun question that my kids hate, but clients love after the process. I say, well, if you did know, what would you know? And the funny thing is that most of the time my clients, my adult clients, are not even faced by that question. They don't realize that what I've just now done is told their brain that it just simply needs to keep processing. Don't give up. And I introduce the possibility that yes, you may know, and you just need to let it rise to the surface. So my kids hate this because they're not my clients. They didn't ask me to be their coach, and they see it coming. So they just get annoyed, but now I just laugh because they know I'm going to say it. But I want them to actually gain something from that, because in their future, I want them to say, I don't know. And I want them to hear my voice say, well, if you did know something, what would it be? What would you know if you knew? They're going to hear me, especially when they go back and they listen to Mom's podcast, right? So you want your client to believe that this coaching relationship is exactly the right space to get honest with themselves and be truthful with thoughts and answers. You want their brains to get unstuck from the I don't know. You want their souls to feel like clarity and freedom are possible. So you ask deeper questions that allow them to bring to the surface what's holding them back from knowing. You share that they know, but something is holding the information back, and you want to help them move the hindrance to truth out of the way. Here's where you're going to find their true goals come into the light. Maybe they are afraid that the answer, maybe they're afraid of what the answer really means if they say it out loud. Maybe they think it's a stupid answer and you're going to agree. Yes, that's stupid. Or maybe they think it's a good idea, but they're afraid that you're going to think it's stupid even though they think it's a good idea, right? And it's just so many different reasons that we as human beings conjure up in our mind that aren't even true. And yet, because we imagine them, they become true to our belief systems and thoughts, which is easy enough to change. I'm hoping that I'm teaching you that through this podcast. And sometimes people are more aware of what they think the answer should be rather than what it is. This is really messy for our minds because it never creates good fruit. It's like sweeping the fresh flowers under the rug because it's not dirt, because that's what we think should be on the floor. So instead of like picking up the fresh flowers, they shouldn't be on the floor. Let's hide them. Let's suppress it, right? And because that's not the dirt. Like dirt should be on the floor. And it's really just that simple. We're taking something that is true and we believe it and we want it and it's real for us, and we're shoving it under the rug because it's not what we think the answer should be. So we're denying it. We're ignoring it. And it makes us miss out on what could be when we focus on what should be. And by the way, who determines what the answer should be for us? Well, I'm going to tell you, only us. We're the ones that determine the should be. And we actually have the ability to change our mind about what should be. Sorry, you see what I did there? Okay, so our goal with the I don't know answer isn't to make somebody just get over it quickly or to go ahead and take action anyway. It's actually to help them dig for the answer. I think that as adults, we aren't really held to the standard of using our brains for ourselves to dig deeper and figure things out that we haven't naturally been taught to focus on or be aware of, namely our thoughts and emotions that we suppress. So the next time your client answers, I don't know, you first hold space and don't answer for them. You allow them time to know what they do know. And if they can't truly know it right then, you just ask them, well, how could you figure that out? Then you dig deeper to see how you can invite what they do know deep inside to rise up and reveal itself. And you can ask more questions that help to kind of push the soil out of the way so that bud of knowing can sprout up, right? You can ask things like, what's behind the idea that you don't know? How does it make you feel when I ask this question? You could ask, could it be possible that your brain wants to pretend you don't know for some reason? Or you could say something like, I get that. So let's just take a couple minutes for you to think about the answer. You can let me know when you feel something bubbling up. I'm right here. No pressure. If you knew the answer in the form of a secret that nobody would ever know, and therefore they could never make a judgment about, because it's not going past us, and it's a secret, what would the answer be? You could also just remind them to take a deep breath, keep breathing, and then let the answer surface in its own time. And that might be a little bit further down the road in the session. Maybe you move on. Sometimes that's the right answer. You move on from the question that they didn't know the answer to, and you see if the rest of the work you do through the session might allow that answer to come up, and you might want to even just say down the road, hey, you want to give it a go? Like that question, how much money do you think that you want to make this year? What do you think after all the other conversation we've had, all the rest of this session? Do you feel like an answer is kind of bubbled up or come back to you as we've been talking? That's okay to do. So just make sure that you're compassionate when you're pulling out answers that are deeper for people, because even if you think it's simple or you think like you can see the answer, it's really obvious, it's so important for your client to be able to find it for themselves. And I don't know, it's not a scary response for you to deal with as a coach. It's actually really exciting to say, ooh, they don't know yet, but they don't know that they don't know yet. They still think they don't know. It's exciting to go, ooh, we get to go deeper than they expected. And then we're going to get greater fruit, because the deeper you go, the more root systems you pull up, and you know more things. And that's actually going to give you greater fruit, not just for this session, but for others, the rest of the time that you work with this person, and you're going to teach them something for their life that they didn't know. Well, that's it for I Don't Know. And I would just make sure you know that you can jump into the Christian Life Coach Collective Facebook group. The link is in the show notes. And I have free resources under the file tab there. So jump in, grab that stuff. And these questions, I'm actually going to have a document with these questions. So everything I just said here, all the things that you can say in response to I don't know, they're going to be on that document under the files tab in the Facebook group. So that's the only place you can get it. Jump in there and make sure you check out the Call to Coach Creative Mastermind if you want to get a jump start on your business with content creation and creating a flow for your prospective clients. So that starts the second Tuesday of May. And the applications are still open. The spots are limited because it's a small mastermind. So if you want to get in there, please get your application in today. The link is in the show notes. All right. Bless you, friends. And thanks for listening. And if you're listening to this in real time, I pray that you have a really blessed Easter weekend. I so appreciate you as a listener. And if you are looking for a community of like-hearted believers who love all things coaching, be sure to jump into the Christian Life Coach Collective Facebook group. Do you think you might be called to become a certified Sterling and Stone Life Coach? We'll learn more about the Greenhouse course, where you can get trained in just 10 weeks to start building the foundation of your coaching practice. All the links you need are in the show notes. Happy story making!